Welcome to the Lady Deer Tarot, and thank you for being here. This is a collective reading, so take what resonates, leave what does not, and let your intuition guide you beyond the details. Messages are timeless, and they find you when they are meant to. Today's span reading traces the continuity across time, revealing how past dynamics, present conditions, and future directions shape what is unfolding. What the oracle brings forward is that your imagination is serving you poorly at the moment. Lost in your fantasies and daydreams, you have gradually drifted away from concrete reality, to the point of jeopardizing your progress towards your goals, seeking to escape difficulties, both psychologically and in your relationships. Proves counterproductive when letting your mind wander becomes a way of shirking your responsibilities. Dissatisfaction is an important indicator of what needs to evolve in your life. You can choose to explore its deep-rooted causes or wallow in complaint, an attitude that brings immediate relief, but at a significant cost that you will have to bear later on. According to this second oracle card, the path to follow seems clear. Contemplate nature in its pristine state. Let it soothe you and dispel what is superfluous. Ice takes on a variety of appearances, often determined by the speed at which it solidifies. Among its rarest manifestations is what is known as diamond dust, tiny crystals that appear at temperatures close to -40 degrees Celsius when slightly humid air comes into contact with a colder layer of air at the surface. Ice introduces an otherworldly beauty, a purity that few elements can match. From this stark simplicity, a guiding principle emerges to consider nature in its most stripped-back form and return to the essentials. The two totem animals that accompany you during this period are the camel and the gazelle. The camel can face anything, as it carries a reserve of resources within itself. It rises to challenges and navigates trials with ease, thanks to its autonomy, which enables it to overcome even the most demanding situations. The gazelle, for its part, embodies a grace imbued with sophistication and elegance. Its sensitive nature is often coupled with an acute awareness of its surroundings, sometimes bordering on hypervigilance, which can prevent it from fully enjoying the beauty it has worked so hard to cultivate. When this card appears, it is a reminder to return to the present moment and embrace it in all its abundance. The theme of this reading is represented by the Knight of Wands. He is a great traveler and resonates directly with the camel totem animal, as someone able to go the distance, whatever the external circumstances are. As this knight has long been associated with travel, he symbolizes the urge for exploration and adventure, and even if exotic journeys are not within reach, you can still move toward places that draw you into new encounters. In the background of this reading, what is not yet fully visible, but is already at work, the bottom of the deck, is the Nine of Swords. Stress is at the forefront. Dark thoughts and disturbing feelings are weighing heavily on you and might be keeping you awake at night. You're worrying excessively about a situation, and the more you dwell on your fears, the more influence they gain over your choices, as this could turn into a self-fulfilling prophecy and make your worst-case scenario more likely. In reference to the dream incubation oracle, this anxiety may stem from a refuge in the imagination, which by postponing confrontation with reality tends to amplify internal tensions. If this reading resonates with you, don't forget to like, share, or subscribe. It helps this space grow and reach more people. As for the past, we return to what triggered the current situation. You perceive sensitivity as a source of strength rather than weakness. You are naturally nurturing, and you encourage those around you to recognize the value of their inner life. Initially, there was a keen awareness of underlying emotional currents that were difficult to articulate. What is evident is a vigilance forged by prior exposure to unspoken tensions. The encounter with the King of Cups carried the possibility of optimism during a tough phase. It opened a stabilizing point where the situation had previously felt exposed, and it reinstated access to hope. This presence acted like a spark of light in a darker period, and it made the path less solitary. What mattered was not a sudden resolution, but the chance to keep moving toward a meaningful goal with support available along the way, and, in time, bring something long held into reach. That said, what this counterpart offered you in return contained mixed signals. and oversights that forced you to read between the lines. Despite the external inconsistency, you made the most of it by sharpening your discernment, as you found yourself overcompensating for the other person's shortcomings. In doing so, you assumed more than your share of responsibility to preserve the viability of the bond itself and avoid escalation or a breakdown. This imbalance reflected an asymmetrical dynamic within what could have been a strong bond, as you both experienced the world with the same depth of feeling. Nevertheless, this was an opportunity to acknowledge your worthiness and release any self-limiting behaviors or externally imposed patterns that were constraining your development, in keeping with the theme of this reading and the impetus of the Knight of Wands. Your journey from here is likely to unfold as a course you choose to follow, without contorting yourself to meet what is misaligned. For the present, we examine what is currently at play. At the center of this spread lies the moon, which once again echoes the dream incubation oracle. There is no longer any doubt at this stage. What is surfacing is the realization that something has been sustained by projection rather than by a reality-based perception, an idealized vision of relational harmony and emotional completeness that once appeared as a blessing now comes up against a gap that cannot be overlooked or bypassed. From this perspective, becoming mindful is the first step toward materialization, and it is precisely through the magician's energy that you can create your own miracles. Since you are able to channel divine inspiration into the physical world and plant the seed of an idea in fertile ground, you now have the ability to name what is occurring, to cut through distortion without hesitation, and to reclaim your narrative. It is not a matter of dismantling the whole experience, but of resetting the framework within which ambiguity had been left to persist. Walking away from these counterproductive schemes comes easily as you draw closer to your Nine of Cups, in other words, your dearest wish, and thus you move from the 8 to the 9 of Cups. Psychologically, what is being emphasized is cognitive dissonance, the inner strain that appears when attachment to a desired outcome can no longer coexist comfortably with what is increasingly undeniable. For a while, the mind may have tried to alleviate this tension by cherry-picking certain clues, by smoothing over the contradictions, or by attaching emotional significance to what was incongruous. But once the discrepancy becomes too prominent, the psyche can no longer cope with partial evidence, and that is when it undergoes a change, not merely through sudden certainty, but through the collapse of the internal compromise that had maintained expectations, doubts, and avoidance to fit within the same mental framework. For the near future, we observe what is already underway. The Tower intervenes as a fracture under the pressure of what is now unmistakable and cannot be deferred. There is an immediate need to hold your ground from a position that is not up for negotiation. The 8 of Swords reappears, but it does not function in the same way as before, as what once confined you is now being pinpointed. As you switch from the King of Swords to the Queen of Swords, this modulation is not a loss of authority, but a shift in how it is exercised. The King establishes order through distance and from an elevated position, whereas the Queen operates within the field itself and adjusts in real time. The insight offered by the 6 of Cups reveals the source of this entanglement, a past configuration that influenced your understanding and perpetuated an internal constriction that now begins to loosen as things accelerate. Information circulates, exchanges intensify, and inertia dissolves. In this context, drawing a parallel with the oracles highlights that distancing yourself from internal strife and competitive environments, not by retreating into a mental bubble, but by engaging with nature and adopting a contemplative stance, is also a way of letting the mind roam without harmful effects, as it enables you to recharge and reconnect intimately with your surroundings. And let us not forget that the gazelle as a totem animal points to a manner of navigating with both agility and gentleness, while remaining alert, without allowing this to encroach upon one's personal balance. It shows how a quality of presence can arise without force while supporting a fuller inhabiting of the present moment. In harmony with the beauty of living things, the challenge here is to rediscover a more settled mode of relating, where attention softens and opens the possibility of an inner availability. I hope this has been helpful. Let me know in the comments. Take care, keep well, and I will see you in the next reading.